Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Peter Barber. I am primarily a professional opera singer, music producer, and of course a bass vocalist. I'm so thrilled to welcome you to the setup in my new apartment. Very, very exciting. I just moved to a two-bedroom from a little studio apartment, so now I get to use one bedroom as a studio and the other bedroom for bedroom purposes. So this is very exciting. This is my first video that I'm recording in the new space, so welcome. Today we're going to be checking out someone totally unplanned. I just kind of hopped on YouTube and I was looking for a Marcelino Pomoy video, and then this came up and I was like, let's just do it. So this is Tom Ball getting the golden buzzer on America's Got Talent All-Stars, singing The Sound of Silence. So guys, what we're going to be doing here today, if you're not familiar with my channel, there's going to be a reaction and analysis. So you'll be getting the first time reaction, but I'll also be pausing to talk primarily about vocal technique because that's where my expertise lies, but also about other musical or artistic things that I notice and feel necessary to point out. But my goal here really is to increase your listening experience. It's to add value to your listening experience. It is to help educate about vocal technique and kind of what's going on behind the scenes, whether it's physiology or whatever. But my goal really is primarily to educate and help you enjoy this music more. I get so many comments about people saying, "Oh my gosh, I never heard that part you pointed out about this song I've listened to for 10 years that I love so much, and now I hear it and it makes me appreciate the song so much more." Comments like that are always flowing over, and that is my whole goal here. So that's why I made this channel. I'm trying to bring the best value to you guys. I'm trying to entertain, but also really I'm trying to educate. So guys, without further ado, please do like, subscribe, leave a comment for the algorithm, all those great things. And if you find you do learn something, let's make a deal. If you learn something new while watching this video, consider joining my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Definitely subscribe, but consider joining my Patreon. That is the way that I make a significant chunk of my income. It's how I can afford an apartment this big, to have a studio, to do this work, to make more content for you guys. By far the best way to support me is on Patreon, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you check that out. Links in the description below. This is a little bit of a longer intro than usual. I'm all jazzed up about this new space that I'm in. And without further ado, let's check this out. Let's break down what Tom Ball does vocally. Let's analyze why he got the golden buzzer. And I'm excited to do so. So I've skipped forward to right when he starts singing. So let's go ahead and dive in, guys. Let's see what happens.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
So very obviously a tenor voice so far. Those low notes are pretty breathy, right? So he's not much bass response in his voice. Hello. Let's see what key we're in. So B flat minor, and he goes down to I've come down to an A flat 2. So in a tenor voice, especially a high tenor voice, like I assume Tom has, we'll find out shortly. Like I said, I've never heard him before. Generally, that's going to be about where the sound really starts to fade, around a B flat 2, which is right where he starts this song. And then A flat 2 is going to be, you know, that really kind of breathy sound. It's really airy. That means the vocal folds they just really aren't coming together much at that point. Which is exactly what you'd expect in a high tenor voice. So just flagging that out, I'm expecting some amazing high notes from him later, just based on what I'm hearing in his low range so far. I bet he has some wicked high notes.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But even down there, friend, E flat. So even on that E flat, it's a little bit more up into his comfort zone, and he's able to get that nice free spinning vibrato, friend, as opposed to the first note, hello, hello, darkness, my old friend. And then he's able to let the voice start spinning naturally, as we sometimes call it in the opera world. And we always want well, you don't always want vibrato for sure in pop, and really anything outside of opera. Opera, unless you're making an artistic choice, you always want a nice sine wave like vibrato, meaning it's very consistent. Outside, it's always a choice, and often in pop music and musical theater, there's a technique where you will hit the start of a note with straight tone and then let it start vibrating. Friend. Now, he kind of started vibrating right at the start there, but that is a technique commonly used.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
So barely down to that A flat there.
Because a vision softly creeping.
Yeah. So already, creeping. So up to a B flat 3 to A flat 3. Already you can hear how there's so much more comfort in his voice. There's better vocal fold closure, meaning there's less breathiness to the sound, which literally means the vocal folds during each of their oscillations are together for a higher percentage of the time. More breathy means they're apart more time. Less breathiness, they're together more time. So that's really nice to hear that, and totally expected as he gets out of this really low part of his voice up into the middle range.
Because a vision softly creeping left its scenes while I was sleeping.
So a beautiful, easy, natural vibrato. Sleeping. It's not erratic. It's not forced. It's just so you can feel all the way down to his diaphragm, which is where it all starts, how comfortable that is for him. He's just there's no tension here whatsoever. Creeping. And it's just coming out so naturally and easily. And by the way, I haven't said this yet, he does have a beautiful voice. Really, really a beautiful voice. So pay attention to that. You can hear, you don't have to know much about singing or music to tell when there's tension in a voice. And you can hear clearly with Tom, it's very easy and very free, at least in this part of his range, and we'll see what happens as he ascends.
It seems while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
Yeah, just it's amazing. I mean, truly, silent, just barely. His voice is natural. The end of his natural chest range is probably maybe a G, That A flat 2 is awfully close, but by the time he gets to B flat, there's almost nothing left. Amazing how different voices can be, right? It's fun. Analyzing this as a bass, it's like hard to relate to, but have been around and performed with and taught many voices over the years, and there are amazing qualities to every voice type. There are things tenors can do that I can't do that I wish I could do, and there's things I can do that tenors wish they could do. So you've got to learn to appreciate your own instrument and also appreciate and respect all the other instruments out there.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more.
So what's happening to his voice here? So he's going up into his, for him this is probably still like middle range. So that's up to an F4, and in his voice it doesn't even sound high because that's like where his wheelhouse is. And you can tell the vocal fold closure is much more efficient. There's much less air coming through the sound, so he's lost most of the breathiness. It sounds like he does still have a little bit of kind of rasp in his voice just naturally, but he's lost, the overwhelming majority of that breathiness that he had at the start of the song when he was way in his low range.
In the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking.
Okay, so still maintaining. up to B flat, tenor high B flat, and still maintaining that really consistent supported vibrato.
Talking without speaking, people hearing without listening.
And you can feel it kind of shifts. You can feel it. It shifts to a higher place of resonance throughout his body, which is what you expect. You know, as you sing low in chest voice, part of the reason why people call it chest voice is because you feel a resonance more down here, the lower frequencies resonating in the larger chambers. And then as you ascend, you start to feel the resonance kind of move up and up and up and up and up. And you can feel when he gets up to that B flat, it's almost like the sound is coming out of his forehead. As opposed to lower when it literally feels like it's coming from a lower point. So it's cool and it's interesting and it's useful for singers to you can kind of map the frequency and the resonance that way to kind of where you're feeling it actually resonating. Pretty cool, and you can hear that in his voice here.
People hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share.
Okay, so I actually kind of love that low harmony option because if he went up, let's see how high he would have had to go. That would have to go up to a high, in this key, I suppose, D flat, a high D flat, which is crazy high to remain at least in pure chest voice. It can be done, but super high. So, and I think that the lower option sounds really good, and I've never heard it done that way. So I'm here for it.
Writing songs that voices never share.
Let me see if I definitely sang that way out of tune. Let me try to do it with my. So I'll try to give you I'll try to sing what would be the lead part.
People writing songs that voices never share. No one dared disturb the sound of silence.
So there's that technique. So he held that straight tone for a long time. And then finally let vibrato come in right at the very end. Tricky thing here. So he's obviously singing. There are people playing live on stage with him. He's singing live, of course. But there's also backing track which is on a set tempo, and I just want to point out that he had to like kind of catch up with the words there for a second. This is just something that is relatable because, you know, if you're singing with an orchestra as an opera singer and you've got a conductor that's just like driving forward, sometimes it's really tough to like get all the words in time, and so you end up coming off the voice a little bit and not really fully singing each word. And there's just a moment here that's worth pointing out because it's one of those things if you're playing along with a pre-recorded track.
No one dared
Disturb the sound. So it could have been disturb the sound in the right time. Disturb the sound, but instead it was disturb the sound. You know what I mean? So if he had more time or had more time to breathe, then he could have given that full like disturb the sound. Nice little voice crack there. Take note. So if you have a little more time, you can kind of sing fully on all those notes, and if you don't, and you're on a pre-recorded track, sometimes you just got to get the notes out and keep going. So it's even longer than I expected.
And the people burn and parade to the neon god they made, and the sign flashed out its warning.
B? Yeah, high B, so we're almost up to tenor high C now. And also I like how, you know, in the first chorus he optioned down, but then right at the start of the second verse, he optioned up. He did a higher harmony.
Burn and parade to the
I think it's just touched on that high C sharp for just a split second there.
In the words that it was forming, and the sign said the words of the prophet.
Get it? Yeah. Oh, yes. Loved. He did go for this. I think it was a C sharp, and it was a very heady, mixed voice. You could feel the switch where he lost some of the weight of the sound, and he didn't try to pull all that weight up there into that really high. Let's figure out what this note is. I think if it's up a half step, maybe it's a. We'll see. Let's see. So a D5. So D above tenor high C, and just notice the change in quality on that pitch versus the notes leading up to it.
I said the words of the prophet
subway. And then he comes back into chest voice on walls, like pure chest voice. But you can hear the shift in resonance. And something that's interesting actually is his vocal fold closure gets more efficient right on that top note. There's just this slight bit of grit throughout his whole performance so far. And then he gets up to that really high D and then more of like a mixed voice, and it becomes a completely efficient, pure sound. So that's interesting. Like, listen now, that's such a pure sound. He did the leading tone there. Went to C sharp. Normally you'd like, and whispered in the sound, but he did, and whispered in the sound. And whispered the sound. Like it. Of silence. So I didn't notice we call that jaw brado sometimes. I didn't notice that earlier in the song. That's a habit some singers can form unneeded, completely unneeded. You obviously don't need to do that to create the vibrato, and I bet he doesn't need that either. But just an interesting observation that you kind of got to see straight on. You could see how the jaw was influencing the pitch, the vibrato there. I want to actually see real quick what the judges say. But overall, really love his voice. A beautiful voice. Has a little bit of a grit and edge to it, aside from that one really high note. But he's sang very well in tune. I thought for the most part, really a free spinning, easy vibrato. At no point during this performance was I nervous about him hitting a high note, which, honest to God, if you're listening to tenors sing high notes, if you're not nervous, it's a really good sign. It's like that you're just able to sit back and enjoy the show instead of being like, oop, are they going to get up there? So let's see what the judges have to say.
I'm actually angry about something.
What is it?
I wish this was the first time I'd ever heard Tom in a weird way. You're like Susan Boyle's grandson. Because what you do is not what we expect. For me, this is the best performance I've seen all series.
You're surprising in so many ways. You're only 24 years old, and Simon and Garfunkel are a lot older than that. But you do it so right. It really was. You're really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to get flagged for copyright if I listen too much straight.
All the notes, you have the pipes for it. I thought it was amazing.
Thank you.
And I guess he gets the golden buzzer. So we'll table that for another time. I don't know what the deal is on. I actually have never listened and commented on commentary here because, I don't know, it seems a little meta. It seems a little redundant. But anyway, you guys can check that out. I will leave the video in the description below in case you haven't seen this. But if you're watching my video, surely you have. Okay, Tom Ball. First time hearing Tom Ball. Really well done. Really loved it. I loved there were changes in the rhythm of the text. There were changes in the harmony and the melody that he chose. Some turned out to be harmonies to the original melody, like I demonstrated a few minutes ago. But overall, a really great performance. A really nice, a really beautiful voice. Solid high notes, and yeah, that's my take, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hey, if you learned something, subscribe. We have a deal. And if I really enhanced your listening experience, please do check out my Patreon. Links in the description below. As little as $1 a month, and like I said, that is the best possible way to support me. It helps pay for the whole party. It really does. It really is what gives me my most support at this point. So it's very, very important, and you do get a lot of benefits from it. It's not just throwing money at me. You do get something in return. So check that out. And without further ado, guys, I will see you in the next one. Peace.